You've been lied to about intelligence your entire life. They told you it's fixed, that you're either born smart or you're not. But what if I told you that in the next few minutes, I'm going to show you how to boost your brain power by up to 189% using real, science-backed techniques that most people have never even heard of. Sounds outrageous, right? But let me take you back to a moment that changed everything for me. A friend of mine, let's call him Ryan, was always the slow learner in school. Always the guy who struggled in math, forgot what he read, couldn't concentrate for more than 5 minutes. People laughed behind his back. Teachers gave up on him. And for a while, he believed them. Until one day, completely by accident, Ryan discovered a simple mental shift, a daily 10-minute habit that turned his entire cognitive life around. Within months, his reading speed doubled, his memory improved, and he even began tutoring others in subjects he once failed. And that was just the start. See, intelligence isn't about being born a genius. It's about what you do with your brain, and more importantly, how you treat it. The truth is, your brain is like a muscle, and when you feed it the right tools, train it the right way, and get it the right fuel, it grows and fast. So, if you're willing to give me just a few minutes, I'll walk you through the exact steps you can take starting today to level up your intelligence in ways that'll actually blow your mind. First, let's talk about something called neuroplasticity, that it's not just a buzzword. It's the brain's superpower. Neuroplasticity is your brain's ability to rewire itself, to grow, to adapt, no matter your age or past. In other words, you're not stuck. And the first step to hacking this power is to understand how attention works. Focus isn't just a skill, it's a gateway drug to intelligence. A 2018 study from MIT revealed that the brains of people with high focus light up in areas that are also tied to memory and reasoning. Meaning, the more you train your ability to focus deeply on one thing at a time, the more your brain begins to optimize itself for learning, creativity, and problem solving. Try this for just 10 minutes a day. Set a timer, eliminate distractions, and focus solely on one mentally demanding task. Reading a complex article, solving logic puzzles, or reflecting on a deep question. Do it consistently, and you'll start to feel the shift. Next up, something so simple, it's almost laughable. Walking. But not just any walking, what I call intelligent walks. This is where you go on a 15, 30-minute walk without your phone, and during this walk, you reflect, problem solve, or even talk out loud about things you're trying to understand. Why does this work? Because movement boosts brain-derived neurotrophic factor, BDNF, a protein that literally acts like Miracle-Gro for your brain. It strengthens your neurons, helps form new connections, and improves long-term memory. Einstein was known for doing his best thinking during walks. Steve Jobs used walking meetings to generate his greatest ideas. This is no coincidence. Intelligent walking combines physical movement with cognitive engagement, supercharging your intelligence with almost zero effort. But it gets even better. Let's talk about something called input control. We live in a world drowning in noise. Mindless scrolling, clickbait headlines, and constant notifications are eroding your brain's bandwidth every single day. If you want to seriously boost your IQ, you must guard what goes into your brain as if your life depends on it, because mentally, it does. The average person consumes over 74 gigabytes of information every single day. That's like trying to pour an ocean into a teacup. The most intelligent people are ruthless about input. They curate what they consume, and they intentionally choose information that stretches their thinking. So starting today, begin a 7-day mental detox. Replace 1 hour of social media with reading nonfiction or listening to podcasts that challenge your beliefs, teach a new skill, or explore complex ideas. Not only does this improve your knowledge base, but it also rewires your brain for higher-order thinking. Now, here's a curveball. Did you know that intelligence is also tied to how well you sleep? Not just quantity, but quality. One Harvard study found that people who got high-quality sleep, measured by deep sleep cycles, scored up to 40% higher on memory and problem-solving tests the next day compared to those who slept poorly. Your brain literally cleans itself during sleep, removing toxins and consolidating new learning. So here's the hack. 90 minutes before sleep, shut off screens, avoid caffeine, and spend 15 minutes doing something called thought dumping. Grab a journal, write down all the things on your mind, worries, tasks, random thoughts, and dump them on paper. This clears mental clutter, lowers cortisol, and prepares your mind for deep, regenerative sleep that fuels intelligence. And while we're talking regeneration, let's talk about something people almost never associate with intelligence: emotions. Yes, emotional intelligence is not only a real form of intelligence, it might be the most important. People with high emotional intelligence are more adaptable, better decision makers, and less likely to be overwhelmed in high-stress situations. They also tend to learn faster and retain more information. Why? Because emotions are the drivers of attention and memory. If you're emotionally hijacked, angry, anxious, or distracted, your brain shuts off learning mode. But if you learn how to regulate your emotions, to pause before reacting, to reflect before judging, you enter a state of calm, focus that's ideal for intelligence. One practical way to do this is by practicing meta-awareness. Set random alarms during the day, and when they go off, ask yourself, what am I feeling right now? Why? Is this feeling helping me or hurting me? This simple emotional check-in, done consistently, will rewire your default emotional responses and make you more resilient, thoughtful, and mentally sharp. Now, if you made it this far, I want to invite you to do something simple but powerful. Hit the like button and subscribe. Not just for my sake, but for yours. Because this channel is designed to feed your brain, not with junk, but with high-value ideas, tools, and breakthroughs that can literally change how you think and live. If you're serious about becoming the sharpest version of yourself, this is where you want to be. Now, back to the real gems, because we're only getting started. Now that your brain is beginning to stretch, let's go deeper. What if I told you that most people unintentionally sabotage their intelligence by how they speak to themselves? That's right. Your internal dialogue is either building mental muscle or silently draining it. Research from Stanford and the University of Michigan shows that self-talk isn't just psychological fluff. It has measurable effects on working memory, problem-solving, and decision-making. When you constantly say things like, "I'm just not smart enough," or "I always forget things," your brain starts to reinforce those patterns. But when you shift to what's called growth-oriented self-talk, everything changes. Instead of saying, "I don't understand this," try saying, "I don't understand this yet." That one word, "yet," activates the part of your brain that searches for learning paths instead of shutting down. So next time you're stuck, frustrated, or doubting yourself, pause and ask, how would a smarter version of me handle this? It's not just a cheesy trick. It's a real-time cognitive reframing tool. And speaking of tools, let me give you one of the most powerful intelligence boosters I've ever discovered: spaced repetition. This is a system used by top performers, memory champions, and even medical students to retain massive amounts of information without burning out. The concept is simple but insanely effective. Instead of cramming, you review information at increasing intervals: 1 day, 3 days, 7 days, 14 days. Apps like Anki and platforms like SuperMemo use this principle, and the results are staggering. According to studies, spaced repetition can improve long-term memory retention by up to 300%. Imagine being able to read a book and remember the ideas months later, not just days. But let's push it even further. Combine spaced repetition with active recall, and your brain becomes a beast. Here's how. Instead of rereading something passively, test yourself on it. Close the book. Ask yourself, what were the 3 main ideas? Or, how would I explain this to someone else? This forces your brain to retrieve the information instead of just recognizing it. And retrieval is where the real neural wiring happens. In fact, active recall alone has been shown to outperform traditional study methods by 50 to 70% in multiple meta-analyses. But here's where most people fail. They don't apply this to real life. They might use it for exams, but not for learning skills, communication, or solving real-world problems. So here's your challenge. Pick one area of your life you want to get smarter in: finance, relationships, creativity, and build a micro-learning system around it using spaced repetition plus active recall. I promise you, in just a few weeks, you'll think clearer, speak sharper, and make smarter decisions. Now, I want to break a myth wide open. People think intelligence is about knowing more. But true intelligence isn't about how much you know, it's about how well you think. That means learning to think in systems, not silos. It means connecting ideas across disciplines. Take Elon Musk. He doesn't just read about rockets. He reads physics, philosophy, engineering, economics, and then links them together to innovate in ways no one else can. That's called transdisciplinary thinking, and it's the secret weapon of the smartest minds in the world. You can start small. Next time you learn something new, ask, how does this connect to what I already know? Or where else could this idea be useful? These simple questions begin forming what psychologists call mental schemas, the frameworks that allow you to learn faster, retain longer, and solve problems more creatively. And speaking of creativity, did you know it's one of the highest forms of intelligence? In fact, studies from the University of Graz in Austria show that creative thinking activates more brain regions simultaneously than linear problem solving. So if you want to boost your IQ, don't just study, create, right? Draw, invent. Even brainstorming silly ideas or rewriting endings to stories can ignite parts of your brain that lie dormant in your daily routine. One fun way to start, try the 20 uses game. Pick an everyday object, like a brick, and write down 20 different ways it could be used. At first, it feels stupid, but very quickly, your brain shifts into innovation mode. And this is where genius starts. Now, if you're thinking, okay, this all sounds great, but what about when I just feel mentally stuck or sluggish? Here's one word, state. Your mental state determines how well your brain functions in any given moment. If you're tired, stressed, or anxious, your cognitive resources drop by up to 70%. But there's a way to hack your state in under 60 seconds, using a trick from Navy SEALs and high-performance athletes, physiological sighing. It's simple. Take a deep breath in, then a second, shorter inhale on top of it. Then exhale slowly through the mouth. Repeat twice. This calms your nervous system, sharpens focus, and increases oxygen to the brain. Pair this with powerful posture, shoulders back, chin up, and your brain begins responding like you're in control, not collapsing. Combine this with intention. Ask yourself, what do I want to solve or learn right now? And you're now in a peak state for mental performance. But here's the twist that most people miss. Intelligence isn't just about performance. It's about perspective. The smartest people I know ask better questions. Not, am I smart? But how can I think better? Not, why is this hard? But what part of this haven't I understood yet? These questions upgrade your thinking instantly. They activate your prefrontal cortex, the seat of reasoning and executive function, and begin creating a feedback loop of higher level cognition. In short, the quality of your thoughts begins with the quality of your questions. So here's a challenge you can implement right now. Create a list of 10 power questions. Questions that spark insight, curiosity, and deep thinking. Things like, what would I do if I weren't afraid? Or what patterns keep showing up in my life? Ask one per day. Journal about it. Reflect on it. You'll start to notice a shift, not just in how you think, but in how deeply you understand the world and yourself. And now, are you ready for a twist? There's one final habit, one master key that amplifies every strategy we've talked about so far. But I'm going to save that for the final part of this video. Because once you learn it, it'll permanently change how you think, how you learn, and how fast your intelligence grows. So here we are, the final stretch. And I promised you one last habit, one master key that can amplify everything we've talked about, from memory to focus to creativity to emotional regulation. It's not flashy. It's not complicated. In fact, it's ancient. But when used correctly, it becomes a cognitive supercharger that most people overlook: deep reflection. See, in a world obsessed with input, we rarely stop to digest. We read, we scroll, we binge, but we rarely reflect. And that's where intelligence truly comes alive. Not when you consume, but when you process. Neuroscience confirms this. Studies from the University of Texas show that deep reflection activates the brain's default mode network, the same system used in memory consolidation, empathy, and complex problem solving. That means your smartest thoughts often arise in stillness, in silence, in moments when you're not trying to be productive. So here's what I want you to do. Build a thinking hour into your week. Just 1 hour. No phone, no noise. Just you, a notebook, and a prompt like, what did I learn this week that challenged me? Or what mental habits are slowing me down? You'll be stunned at what surfaces. Patterns, insights, decisions you've been avoiding all rise to the surface. And with them comes clarity, direction, and yes, intelligence. But this isn't just about what happens in your brain. Intelligence is also about who you surround yourself with. One of the fastest ways to raise or lower your cognitive level is by the company you keep. Jim Rohn famously said, "You are the average of the 5 people you spend the most time with." But let's upgrade that. You are the cognitive average of the 5 minds you engage with most. That includes people online. That includes the YouTubers, authors, podcasters you consume daily. So be intentional. Follow thinkers who challenge you, not just entertain you. Watch content that stretches your mind, not just soothes it. Join communities where big ideas are shared, not just gossip and noise. Because mental energy is contagious. And when you place yourself in the proximity of deep thinkers, your brain has no choice but to level up. But maybe you're thinking, okay, I get all this, but will it really work for me? That's the voice of doubt. The voice of every person who's been told they're average, that they'll never be more than what they are right now. But let me ask you this. If a muscle can grow, why not the mind? If you could train your body, why not train your brain? Intelligence is not a gift. It's a decision. A choice to become aware of your patterns, to break them, to rebuild. It's not about being perfect. It's about being deliberate. Let me leave you with a story that proves just how powerful this is. There was a woman named Barbara Aerosmith Young. As a child, she was told she had severe learning disabilities, that her brain simply couldn't process logic, spatial reasoning, or relationships between concepts. But instead of accepting that label, she began creating exercises to train the exact parts of her brain that were weakest. Over time, her mental processing speed improved. Her logic strengthened. She went on to create an entire school system based on those principles, helping thousands of kids labeled slow or disabled become high-functioning learners. Her life is living proof that intelligence is malleable, bendable, buildable, expandable, just like yours. And if she can do that from scratch, what's stopping you from increasing your mental edge by 189%? Maybe not overnight, but over time, through small, consistent, high-leverage habits. And that's the point I want to leave you with. It's not about doing everything perfectly. It's about doing something deliberately. One focused session, one intelligent walk, one emotional check-in, 1 hour of deep reflection. Each small step is a vote for the person you're becoming. And soon, those steps become strides. And those strides become momentum. And before you know it, you look back and realize you don't just feel smarter. You are. You speak differently, think faster, understand deeper. People notice. You notice. And life begins to shift, not because the world changed, but because your lens on it did. That's the real upgrade. That's the 189% boost. Not in raw facts memorized, but in how vividly, wisely, and powerfully you engage with reality. So, if this resonated with you, if even a part of you whispered, yes, this is what I've been needing, then take that whisper seriously. Don't let it fade into the noise of the next video. Pause, reflect, and commit to action. Because the difference between those who stay stuck and those who rise isn't knowledge. It's what they do with it. And now you know. So if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button, not as a favor, but as a signal to yourself that this is the journey you're choosing. A journey to think bigger, live sharper, and unlock the extraordinary potential that's been sitting inside your brain all along. Because intelligence isn't just about solving problems. It's about creating possibilities. And your next level is just one thought away.